Hey everybody, it's Peter, and in this video we're going to compare the Vespa Primavera 150 with the Vespa GTS 300. That happens to be a Super Tech. You can have other kinds of Super ones. The Super Tech has a little bit more fancy dash, but it's worth showing because you can't get that in the Primavera. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare these two. Now there are some obvious differences like a 150 versus a 300cc engine. That one's also got a bigger body. It's going to be a little bit better at highway speeds. It's going to be a little bit better for passengers, but there's a lot of technical differences that make a practical difference, and that's really what we're going to show you if you're comparing these two bikes and trying to decide, do you need to go to something that's fully highway capable, or is this all the speed you need? Because it's not just about speed, it's about the features that each one can bring you. So what we're going to do is go really in depth with the two of these in a comparison video, and if you have questions, I'm filming here at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, and you can let me know in the comment section what you want to know, because they give me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup, so I can answer your questions both in the comment section and in future videos. And of course, if you're in Fredericton, New Brunswick, this showroom here is amazing. There's all kinds of Vespa, Piaggio scooters, and all kinds of things to look at, so you can check them out and see them in person. So let's get going with this review. So one of the key reasons to get a Vespa is because they're pretty cool and they have a long history, and even the most modern ones have a nice style to them that goes back to the older range. So this one is a 2022 model, there's a 2023 model, but they look very, very similar. And for most people's use case, it's going to be practically the same vehicle. So we're going to show you this one, even if it's not the most up-to-date one, it's still going to give you a pretty good idea of what everything is. And again, they haven't really changed. So one of the key things is the body on these Vespas is actually part of the frame. So unlike most scooters nowadays are a lot like a modern sport bike. They have a frame and then they have plastic panels on the outside which give it its shape. But on a Vespa, you've got the frame and the shape in many cases as part of the same unit. It makes for a very stiff frame, makes for a very reliable, long-term, very good frame, and it gives it that classic style. But there are some differences here. You can see there's a little bit of a venting in here for some liquid cooling. This one here is a little bit narrower there. You have some cool things as well in the suspension. So we're going to show you the suspension a little closer, but you have a sort of anti-dive suspension on both of these vehicles here, and that allows you to have a fully visible front wheel on this side, which is a kind of cool thing. So we're going to show you that as well. But what this video is really about is the differences. So let's start by looking at the Vespa Primavera 150, go through that, and then we'll start showing you what you get that's a little bit different in the 300 behind me. So this is a Vespa Primavera. This is kind of the classic style that you would have that goes right back to the beginning of Vespa. Now, this one's got a round headlight. There's a Sprint as well with sort of an trapezoidal type headlight. There are very, very minor styling differences between a Sprint and a Primavera. A lot of times people just pick one over the other because of the color availability. But this one happens to be a Primavera, so we're going to talk about it as a Primavera. I've done a video comparing the Sprint and the Primavera in the past, so if that's what you want to see, then you can check that out. This one also has an accessory over here, and I like that it has an accessory. This is an extra storage area. You don't have to have this. This is a Vespa accessory, and it really kind of makes it compete with the other model, because although this one has storage under the seat, it won't have as much as the other model, so you would need to get this kind of a box on this one to get closer to the storage capacity of that one. But of course, if you added a box to that one, more space again. So the first thing to know about a Vespa is in this 150 class, it's the same body as the 50cc class. So it's a little bit smaller, a little bit more compact, and it's also a little bit lighter. They only have a center stand. You're going to find on the other one it has a side stand as well. So because I'm on a tile floor, I got to kind of put my toe in front of this so it doesn't slide off. We're going to take it off the center stand because most of the videos I've done, I've left it on the center stand, and people are concerned about being really tall. When it's on the center stand, it raises it up off the suspension and actually lifts the rear wheel off the ground, so it's several inches taller than it would be if I was just sitting like this. So we're going to show you like this. First of all, Vespas are very light, even though they are heavier than some other scooters because of the strong construction. They are very, very easy to maneuver. So you have something that's easily manageable by pretty much anybody who's used to riding a bicycle. They can ride this. Now again, because it's the smaller frame, it doesn't mean it doesn't fit someone who's like myself. I'm about 6 feet tall, and you can see I've got lots of legroom here, and there's still plenty of space for a passenger. There is a little bit of a bump up here, and if I go right back to that bump, I'm back to here, but I'm fully comfortable sitting a little bit forward of that bump, which means you can fit a very tall person on a very small vehicle. And that's one of the real appeals, is you can fit shorter people or taller people. If you're shorter than me, you could probably still flat foot it. You can see I've got a nice bend to my knee here. If you're really shorter than me, there is a place to stand sort of down in here, which gives you full ability to ride this pretty much whatever height you are. So it's easily manageable to move around, it's easily manageable to drive, and then you have the scooter benefits. A little bit of wind protection, a little bit of weather protection. The dash is nice and close to you, so it's easy to read, and you have great visibility with big round mirrors that are both wide angle mirrors. So a couple of little benefits of a scooter is you've got those objects in mirror closer than they appear that you have on the right side of your car. You have them on both sides of the scooter here to give you a little bit wider angle. And one of the things to look for in mirrors on a motorcycle is bad mirrors don't often clear your elbows or your shoulders or whatever it is. These mirrors clear mine just fine, so you have great visibility. So fun to drive is a key piece of this. Lightweight, it's nice and simple. Let's just do a seating comparison with the other one, and then we'll start looking at some of the feature differences between the two. So the easiest way to identify the GTS is not necessarily by the shape, but it's by the extra venting in there. If you see that, this is a wide body, a little bit longer body type vehicle. And you can see that it also has a side stand and a center stand. I really like center stands because wherever you park, even if there's a little bit softer road or softer gravel, you can set it upright. If it's windy or something like that, you know it's secure and you're a good spot. But side stands are really convenient because they just make it a little bit easier to just sort of step across, pick it up, and get going here. So it's got a big kick plate on that side stand. And you can see this one's a little bit taller, but it's probably not gonna rule out any more riders. Again, the seat does come narrow at the front. So when it goes narrow, you can see I'm flat footing here. So if you're a shorter rider, you just move a little bit forward when you come to the ground. And if you're a taller rider, you can come back. And again, I can go a long ways back here. So that's as far back as I would go. That's probably too far for me as well. So you can sit comfortably here. Now, a couple of the differences in here. This is a little bit larger, but really down here, it's significantly wider. So you do have extra wind protection, and that can matter as you get to higher speeds. The faster you go, the more wind you're dealing with. Having that body of the scooter break the wind for you instead of a lot of your body makes a difference. So overall, there is a size difference. The wider width can be felt a little bit here, but people get concerned because this is a heavier vehicle, and you can see it's still very lightweight. I can still move it easily back and forth. So even though it's heavier on a spec sheet, so much of the weight on a scooter is way down low, it doesn't really feel heavier or harder to maneuver. So if you're concerned about this one being a lot harder to maneuver than the 150, it's probably not something you have to be super concerned about. You'll probably be very comfortable on this. So now let's take a closer look and look at some of the differences between these two models. So taking a look here at the 150, you can see the traditional dash here. Now the only difference between a 50cc and a 150cc that most people are going to see, there's a couple other little differences, but what most people are going to see is the difference in the speedometer. The speedometer on this one goes to 140 kilometers an hour. Now that doesn't mean that this bike will go to 140 kilometers an hour. It will sit around the 100-ish kilometers an hour, 62, 65, that kind of thing, in that range for most people of most weights when you get out to a full highway speed. So this is going to be really good for country roads, but not super great for highway, like multi-lane highways, just simply because you won't have the passing power. Even though you could reach the speed limit, you have less of reserve, and that's going to matter. The other thing you're going to see over here is the typical controls. We have a headlight here, signal there, and a horn there, kill switch, a little mode switch, which is going to switch between a couple things we'll show you in just one second, and a start switch. So let's zoom in for a second there, which we've done now, and we're going to turn the bike to the on position and just show you the dash very briefly here. So there's not a whole lot to show you here, and again, you don't need a whole lot. You can see you've got a fuel gauge up top, you've got a total kilometers is 0, and then I'm going to go through trip A, trip B, and that's it, back to total kilometers. So you have a clock down the bottom, fuel light there, as well as a fuel gauge, obviously the warning lights that you would need. You'll notice the ABS light is flashing on this, so that's a really key thing as well. The 50cc Primavera does not have ABS at all. This one does have an ABS front brake, and that makes a big difference to have that ABS front brake. As you're going a little faster, you never want to lock the front wheel up of a motorcycle, and that allows you to basically not let it lock up. So that is available here, but you have a few extra features on the SuperTech that we're going to show you, and it has a different dash. So let's take a look at those right now. All right, so remember you can get this 300cc model with this I don't know if it's a TFT display, but LCD display at least, digital display, and you can also get it with a traditional display. So the Super Sport would have a traditional display, the SuperTech, which is what this one is, has the more digital display. And I'm only showing you this digital one because this shows you what you can get. If you don't need it or don't want it, that's fine too. You'll also notice a few different controls, a little different style of headlight, high beam and low beam. You can turn that on like that, signal lights here, horn down there, and then a little controller switch which can cycle through menus. And then you have what's called ASR on this button here. So the ASR is, I believe, automatic slip regulation or something like that. Basically, that is like a traction control. So as you get into a little bit more power, you have a bit of a traction control type feature there. Again, you have ABS on this one. You have a kill switch and a start switch down there. So a little cleaner look here with the body color wrapping right out instead of mounting these into chrome. I kind of like the look of that, but let's zoom into this dash as well. We're going to just go a little off. We missed our aim there. There we go. So we've zoomed in there, and then we're going to turn the key to on position here. And you can see it come to life. Now it's a pretty cool display screen. It's nice and clear. It gives you a number of things in the side here you can toggle through. So we've got 23 kilometers an hour, which was our average speed. Our max speed was 48. We've got timing, we've got kilometers, trip odometers, that kind of thing. So you've got some things there. You've got a fuel gauge there, all the warning lights that you would need as well, outside temperature at 20 degrees Celsius. So if you go with a Super Tech, you have a number of nice features in here that give you a pretty cool digital dash display, which is nice and easy to read. And it has some just fun functions there. You can pair your phone with the stuff like that as well, and it can give you a little extra. Now again, that's only on the Super Tech. So you can get this 300 with a traditional dash that's a little bit more similar to what we showed you on the 150, but it's worth noting that you can get this. So one of the reasons you might be considering a 150 or a 300cc is for passenger capacity, to be able to take someone as a passenger. Now, first of all, you can see here as a driver, you've got space here. If you didn't have the top box, you have a little bit more space for that passenger's back, but you also have the ability to put a pad on here and make that a true backrest. On the Primavera, you can slide back here, and you can see I'm about 6 feet tall. There's lots of space here for a rider in front of me, and it's pretty comfortable. One thing I find is because there are no foot pegs that tip out, they're actually built into the body here, my heels are against the body and they're just tipped a little bit out from in line that I would like. So again, I can move my feet around here, but you do have the body work coming around there. It's going to be the same on a 50cc and a 150. Obviously, the 150cc is worth considering if you have a lot of hills and you're taking 2 people regularly, because this will give you space. Now, it's not super spacious, but it's actually a lot more comfortable than something like a sport bike, and you're sitting upright and square. So both the driver and passenger are sitting square. On many motorcycles with that forward lean, your passenger puts some of their weight on you because of their you wear your passenger like a backpack, and it's a little bit less comfortable. So it's actually more comfortable on a scooter than on many motorcycles. So there's the 150. Now let's jump over to the 300 here. Now this one doesn't have a backrest, so it may look a little bit different. I have it on the center stand again. This one has little tip out foot pegs there, which are pretty over-engineered. They're kind of cool the way they work. There's sort of a scissor folding mechanism in there. And of course they can hold a lot of weight, so I can put my weight on there. And they fix that problem of me having my ankles way out, because again, this body also comes out. I can sit further back here. You definitely have a little bit more driver's seat in front of you. I'm still square. It's a little bit stadium seating on both. What that means is it sits me a little bit higher than the rider. So although I'll probably still be peeking around my driver, it does put you up over the driver's shoulders, especially if you're a little bit shorter than the driver. So you'll always be able to kind of see and stay in line. You've got good hand grips here on both of them, so you have a place to hold on if you don't want to hold on to the rider. But again, wider body, requires the extra foot pegs to tip you out. Very similar feeling for the passenger on both. And if you want a backrest on something like this, you can get that same box there, have a backrest and extra storage, which is kind of nice. Speaking of storage, let's talk about the storage of both these vehicles. So staying with the GTS, the 300cc model, there's a little electronic release on the dash here. You can pull up the seat from there, and you have much more than a single helmet's worth of space. Now really it's probably about 2 3/4 width helmets down there. You also have a little pins down here that are a little hard to see on your video, but if you didn't want to store your helmet there, or you wanted a large full face helmet that you still wanted to lock to your bike, you can stick the D-ring from your helmet over here and have the helmets hang off the side of the bike while still leaving this storage in there to be used. And that will, when you close the seat, that will lock that D-ring onto there, and you don't have to use this for storage when you're gone. So the big benefit of any scooter is while you're riding, you can use this for storage, and when you're parked, You can use it for helmets or other types of things. But like I said, if you don't want to have your helmet with you and you just want to store it, you have two little posts here. You can stick the D-ring on there, and that will allow you to hang the helmet off the side of the bike here or the side of the bike there. That's pretty typical stuff. On the Vespa here, you can pull the trays out to clean them out, and of course there's your motor in there. So we've got that, and not every vehicle can have that tray pop out, but on the Vespa you can. So let's shut that. Let's stay with the same shot here as we scroll across to another storage area here. There's two of them to show on this 300. So we're going to zoom in for 1 second to see that piece right here. This is the better of the two dash holder things right here. You've got the ability to have this area right there, which allows you to stick a bag, a backpack, anything you want in there. And if I push the key in here, I have a release in there, and it gives me a little extra storage for phones, wallets, that kind of thing. So lots of little storage options. This one's a really nice little key. The other Primavera doesn't have the same level of sort of a latching system on there, so we'll show you that in a second, but they each have that system to hold a bag there, and when you look at it from a wider angle, of course you can clip something on here and hang it between your legs, and it's an extra bit of storage for going around town. So taking a look at the Primavera here, again, this is going to be a little different between a 50cc and a 150cc. A 50cc has a little keyhole right here, and that's the only way to pop this. This one, because it is a higher trim level, is the same as a 300. You have a little electric release on the dash. You can pull stuff in here. Now we've got a few extra things on here. We've got a little chrome piece that was on the vehicle, but now we've got the back rack on there. We're going to pull this out, and you can see it's a little bit smaller space. Now it still fits a 3/4 face helmet. Maybe the right full face helmet would fit there as well. This one has a nice little soft tray in the bottom, and you can pull that out again, and same thing. So you've got the same idea here with your helmet can fit inside, or instead of a plastic tab, it's got a little metal tab there. You can hang your D-rings off the side there. Good storage. I don't know if you noticed the fuel fill on the other vehicle, but it's in the exact same spot. So you've got some ability to throw things under the seat there. And then you've got some of the same idea with storage over here. So let's just kind of pan over across and see the storage. Now you'll notice there isn't the same D-ring or type ring up here. We will show you that storage in 1 second here, but you can press the ignition key in, and you actually have a little bit more storage here. Actually a little bit less over here, more there. This one has a USB port in there. So same thing, that's going to fit your wallet, your phone, the basics. This USB port allows you to charge your phone in there, so that's kind of nice to have. We're going to close that up, and then I'm going to take a different angle just to show you that extra bag hook on this. So still with the Primavera here, the bag hook on this one is right here in the front, and we're going to zoom in a second here. You can see it's a little different style than the last one, which was more of a ring. I like the style of the other one better. I think it's a little bit more reliable, but you can see this one works just as well. You can hook your bag on here. Now what this one is, to me, the reason I don't like it as much is it doesn't have that closing latch on there, and you have a little bit shallower floor here, so you can take a little something smaller between your legs, but you are going to have to keep an eye on it between your knees and your legs, just because it could bounce out. Now if the weight's down here, it's really not going to be an issue, but that tucks in there. So a little bit better clip there, a little bit more storage overall in the 300, but that's kind of what we expect. So we've taken a look at the technical differences between them. Now let's talk about some practical uses of each and who each bike is for. So first of all, if you need a lot of storage inside the bike, the 300 is going to be your best option. It's got a little bit longer storage in here. If you got a top box here, the top box is going to match sort of the width of this, and it'll be a little bit more top box space. And this is the storage king. If you plan on taking your scooter and doing absolutely everything with it, including maybe the option of going on an overnight tour or a really long all-day tour where you want to take a bunch of stuff with you, maybe a change of clothes and other things, this is going to be the better option because this allows you to take any road. If you had to go on a full multi-lane highway at full speed, this still gives you some passing power at that speed. It's still safe to do so. But the reality is if you're driving these scooters, you're going to want to stay to secondary highways, and that just is a more comfortable environment for both of these. Now, both of these can be equipped with windshields to help keep more weather and wind off of you. There's a number of accessories you can add to each one, and that's part of what makes them fun. The Primavera is kind of the classic scooter that can do it all as well. So this gives you that more traditional size. It's a little bit narrower, a little bit smaller, and that 150cc tops out just around 100 kilometers an hour or so, but that's perfectly fine for those secondary highways. And if you're traveling at secondary highways anyways, this is really good. If you're going highway speeds with 2 people, that would be my recommendation, to go to the 300. But if you're doing city speeds with 2 people and up to the country highway speeds with 2 people, this one will be fine as well. There's really quite a bit of room even on the smaller body here. But this one isn't one that I would take passengers on a long tour, you know, several hours. This is more to whip your passengers around town, just really because of the size of it. You still have good storage in here. I really like getting a top box on the back. It changes the look of it a little bit. So if you want to go with a pure classic look, you could go without that. But in practicality, you've got an extra lockable storage thing, which makes a lot of sense. A couple things we didn't talk about is both of these have LED lighting. That gives you a really white light. That white light is important because it gives you a nice sharp cutoff, but it also gives you a color that is closer to daylight color. And what that means is as you're driving at night, your eyes and your brain are more familiar with what you're seeing. So you'll be able to identify if that thing on the side of the road is a rock or a rabbit, something that can move or something that's going to stay put. So really good LED lighting is worth talking about here. Like I said, the ABS brakes is nice to have. The slip control or the traction control type thing on that one is probably not something you need on dry pavement, but if you run into a rainy situation, it's going to be there to help protect you, which is a nice thing to have. So it really comes down to which one you like the best. Obviously, this one costs a little bit more. If you want more technology, this one does have that digital dash, which is kind of cool for some people, but you know, for some people looking for a Vespa, they don't need all the latest and greatest. They want that classic look and that kind of thing. So it's gonna depend on what you want. But if there's a question you have about these two that maybe I didn't answer, that's the biggest reason I made this video. If you want to know more about either one of these or have a specific question that I didn't get to, let me know in the comments below, because I want to know what you want to know so that I can make future videos to help all the other people that haven't asked me that question and help them know as well. So that's my video on these two. I want to thank everyone for watching. And again, if you're in Fredericton, New Brunswick or anywhere near Fredericton, New Brunswick, Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals, Jim Gilbert's Power Sports, the showroom here is phenomenal. It is, you know, absolutely class leading. You will have so many scooters to check out, different styles, different types. You can see them all in person, and I encourage you to swing by there. Thanks everybody for watching.